Welcome back as we proceed to the pricing and valuation of fixed income forwards. There are a number of unique characteristics of fixed income forwards that may be unfamiliar to you, so do make sure you have a clear mind before you attempt this rather confusing lesson. At the end of this lesson, we will also have a brief discussion on the difference in pricing and valuation of forwards and futures. With that, let's jump right in. The first part of this lesson is very similar to the last lesson. Like equity forwards, fixed income forwards do not have carrying costs. Coupons are interim benefits received by the short, so we deduct the future value of the coupons from the forward price. In essence, the price of a fixed income forward is the future value of its spot price minus the future value of the interim coupons. Unfortunately, that's where the similarities with equity forwards end. Fixed income forwards or futures have several unique issues or features that you need to make adjustment for. Firstly, the issue of full price versus quoted price. Bond prices are usually specified using their quoted price, also referred to as clean price. However, when the bond is traded, the buyer should pay the seller the accrued interest as well. The sum of the quoted price and the accrued interest is the full price, which is also called the dirty price. The important thing you have to note is that in the pricing of fixed income forwards and futures, the spot price that we consider should correspond to the full price of the bond. So if you only have the quoted price of the bond of, let's say, $100, you have to calculate and add on the accrued interest before calculating the forward price, which is based on the full price. The accrued interest is calculated as the accrual period times the periodic coupon amount. The accrual period is the time since the last coupon divided by the time between coupon payments times the annual coupon amount divided by the number of coupons per year. Quite a handful, but it will be clearer if you plug in some figures. For example, let's say the underlying is a semi-annual $100 par 6% fixed coupon bond where the last coupon was paid 2 months ago. The accrued interest would be $1. If the quoted price of the bond is $100 at initiation, the full price and spot price would be $101. So let's say two parties want to initiate a 5-month forward on the bond. The next coupon of $3 would be paid to the short at the 4th month from initiation. This is 1 month away from the expiration of the forward. So like equity forwards, we use the future values of the spot price and coupons to determine the no arbitrage price using the risk-free rate of 3%. This works out to a future value of 99.24. We shall label this FFP, or forward full price, as this is not exactly the forward price of the contract. You should note that this is not an official term, just something we came up with to avoid confusion. Primarily, the FFP includes accrued interest as it is based on the full price of the bond at initiation. For some practice, see if you can calculate the accrued interest at the expiration of the forward. Well, you should get 50 cents, as there is just 1 month of accrual from the last coupon. The forward price quoted on the forward contract should be the clean price without the accrued interest. So in this example, the forward price of the contract at initiation is $98.74. The long agrees to buy the bond from the short 5 months later at a quoted price of $98.74. At any interim time t, the forward price is calculated the same way. That is, the accrued interest at that point should be subtracted. And like any forward, the value of the forward to the long is the PV of the increase in forward price. We shall not go through the details of these, as you are already familiar with the processes. Now, let's test your understanding. If at expiration the full price of the underlying bond is $98, what is the profit to the long? We know that in general, the profit to the long at expiration is the spot price minus the forward price at initiation. But in the case of fixed income forwards, the spot price, which is the full price, includes accrued interest, but the forward price excludes it. Therefore, we should minus accrued interest in the profit to the long. The profit to the long is therefore minus $1.24. So at expiration, the long should pay the short $1.24. You should note that this is only for the case of a cash settlement. For physical settlement, the short delivers the underlying bond, but the long has to pay the short the quoted price, plus the accrued interest of 50 cents. According to the contract, the long should pay a total of $99.24 for the underlying bond. Unfortunately, our nightmare isn't over. Very often, for bond forward or futures, the contract terms allow the short the flexibility to deliver a number of bonds other than the underlying bond. Each bond is given a conversion factor that is used to adjust the long's payment at delivery, such that each of these bonds have their own quoted forward price, which we denote as Q0. The quoted forward price is the forward price divided by the conversion factor. For example, at expiration, the short can choose to either deliver the original underlying bond at the forward price of $98.74 or a more valuable bond with a conversion factor of 0.95 at a quoted forward price of $103.94, or a cheaper bond with a conversion factor of 1.05 at a quoted price of $94.04. At expiration, the seller will decide on which bond to deliver based on their market prices. Usually, the cheapest to deliver bond will be chosen. And let's conclude with an exercise. Selected information on Bond A is given. Two parties entered into a 120-day forward on Bond A. The risk-free rate is 3%. What is the no arbitrage forward price of the contract? Pause the video now and work out your answer. And we're back. First, let's determine the coupon for each period. The number of days between coupons is 182, so it is a semi-annual coupon bond. The coupon must be $25 based on $1,000 par. For a start, let's draw the timeline. It is a 120-day forward, and a coupon of $25 is expected on day 32. The number of days from coupon date to expiration is therefore 88 days. The forward price for a fixed income forward is the FV of the spot minus FV of the interim coupons minus the accrued interest at expiration. Let's first work out the spot price, which is the full price of the bond. Since the quoted price and accrued interest is given, the spot price is therefore $1,040.60. The accrued interest at expiration was accrued for 88 days out of 182 days in between coupons. This works out to $12.09. So we calculate the forward values of the spot and coupons, bearing in mind the differences in number of days. Minus the accrued interest, we get $1,013.50. 32 days after contract initiation, immediately after coupon payment, the price of the bond was quoted at $1,015. What is the value of the forward to the long at this point? Pause the video now and work out your answer. And we're back. Likewise, the price of the forward at this point is the FV of the spot minus FV of coupons minus accrued interest at this point. Here is where we've made it easier for you. Since the coupon has just been paid, accrued interest at this point is zero. The spot price is the quoted price of $1,015. The forward price for a new contract initiated at this point is the FV of the spot price minus the FV of future coupons minus the accrued interest at expiration. There are no more coupons from this point on, so this term is zero. The accrued interest is what we've calculated earlier, that is, with 88 days from the last coupon, the accrued interest is $12.09. Plug these figures in, we get this figure as the forward price. And with any forward, the value to the long is the PV of the increase in price. This works out to minus $3.31. And lastly, at expiration, the quoted price of Bond A increased to $1,030. However, the short chooses physical delivery of an alternative bond, Bond B, with a conversion factor of 1.15. What is the quoted price that the long must pay for Bond B? Pause the video now and work out your answer. And we're back. Firstly, like all forwards, the price of either bond at expiration is inconsequential in a physical settlement. The contract requires the long to pay the forward price at initiation, which is this amount. However, since an alternate bond is delivered, the price is adjusted by the given conversion factor of 1.15. The long should pay a quoted price of $881.30 for Bond B. Do note that this is just the quoted price, so the long should also pay the accrued interest for Bond B. And to end this lesson, let's have a quick revision on the differences between forwards and futures contracts that we learned in Level 1. Forwards are over-the-counter contracts in which the agreement is between the long and the short. As such, both parties are exposed to credit risk, as either party has the potential to default from the agreement. As the contracts are negotiated, they're usually non-standard to fit the requirements of both parties. Forward contracts also tend to be unregulated. In contrast, futures are exchange-traded contracts in which the agreement is with the clearinghouse. The clearinghouse does this by splitting each trade, acting as the opposite side of each position. It acts as the buyer to every seller and the seller to every buyer. This system allows either side of the trade to close positions at any time without having to contact the other side of the initial trade. Traders will be able to reverse or reduce their position with ease. The clearinghouse also acts as the counterparty for each participant. The clearinghouse enforces rules like margins, which we shall discuss later, on the participants. This allows the clearinghouse to guarantee that traders in the exchange will honor their obligations. This guarantee removes counterparty risk from futures contracts. To facilitate trading, futures are standard contracts where traders either take the long or short position with standard sizes. Futures markets are usually regulated by the government. In terms of pricing, the principles that we learned for pricing forwards apply to the pricing of futures as well. The price of a forward and the price of a futures contract with the same underlying and identical terms should be largely the same. However, the margins requirements for futures make the valuation of futures and forwards significantly different. We mentioned that the clearinghouse bears the counterparty risk for each trader. To reduce counterparty risk, the clearinghouse requires both the long and the short to maintain a margin account. As the price of the futures fluctuates, this results in daily gains or losses, which are credited to or subtracted from the margin account of the contract holder. This is called the marking-to-market process. Because of this daily marking-to-market mechanism, the value of the futures contract is reset to zero at the end of each trading day. You can see it as the value of the contract is reflected in the trader's margin account. In contrast, most forward contracts are not marked to market and have no margin account requirement. The value of the contract to the long at any time is the PV of the increase in forward price. And that's about the only difference between the pricing and valuation of forwards and futures. For most of our lessons, we focused on forwards, but you can apply the same principles to futures as well, bearing in mind the marking-to-market process for futures. And that concludes this lesson on pricing and valuation of fixed income forwards. We shall move on to the pricing and valuation of forward rate agreements in the next lesson. See you again.